Hi, this is Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan. So today I wanted to talk about being an empath and some of the things I've learned to help myself with that whole process, especially right now with all that's going on and the amount of anxiety and fear and everything else that's flying around the atmosphere out there. First off, an empath is someone who feels other people's feelings as deeply as they feel their own. And it's one of our potential abilities. I was sort of born with it. Some people develop it. Basic empathy is something that all humans should strive for, as far as being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes so that you can have an idea of how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way, and understand their point of view. But an empath is sort of a slightly different level of that, and it can be extremely confusing and difficult to manage in certain circumstances. I know when I was young, it was definitely not an easy time of it, and all of us go through different phases and stages of that, understanding our abilities better and learning how to control them and block other people's emotions. The most important thing that you can do if you are an empath is to learn who you are and how you feel about things, because that's one of the things that happens with empaths. We often are confusing other people's feelings as our own, and also projecting our perceptions and feelings onto others and then reading them back, sort of reflecting them back to us, which isn't fair to the person that we're communicating with. It's projection is normal. It happens. We all project to a certain extent. I mean, we can't help but project somehow, because that's part of the process of us trying to understand the universe, projecting ourselves and our understanding out into the universe. But it causes problems, especially when we are reading people wrong. And when you're new at it, it's pretty easy to read people wrong and then insist that you know what they're thinking, and then not communicate directly with them and ask them how they're feeling, because feelings are separate things from our perceptions of feelings. And if you can't allow that space with a partner or a friend to let them tell you how they feel, then they don't have an opportunity to get in touch with their own feelings either. And that gives us as empaths a chance to sort of discern which of the things that we're likely projecting onto someone else and which are the things that we're reading correctly. So that's just sort of a basic kind of thing. And over the years, different situations I've been in have taught me different things. Sometimes even with protections and going out there in the world, if I lower my shield for any reason, I can get unexpected results. And I've had a few times that something like that has happened to me, even with shielding and so forth. For instance, one visiting a friend who I trusted, and automatically, without realizing it, dropped my shield because, she was someone I trusted. And then the person that she was with wasn't someone I knew very well. And I sort of felt the entire effects when he was angry with me, felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. And then I went, oh, okay then. Apparently I need to have my shields up because my friend is not alone and things are happening. So you adjust and adapt. And another instance that happened when we were in a local store here in town, my husband felt something in the store and he was very excited about it. And he told me, hey, I feel something over here. And me, I just like, oh, okay, and drop all my shields without even noticing it, and come upon an entire display of Nazi memorabilia and was hit very viscerally in the gut with all that energy. and it was so strong it almost made me throw up on the spot. And I knew, what to do in an emergency, and this kind of an emergency especially, grounding is the best response. And I fled the store. I said, we have to get out of here now. Let's leave the store. Almost threw up on the sidewalk, got into the car, drove to a local park, and then ran across the lawn of the park to the first grassy spot near a tree I could see, and threw myself face down on the ground and let that energy go down into the earth. So then I could breathe, and I didn't feel like I was going to throw up. So sometimes it can be overwhelming, but that grounding with the actual earth itself is probably your easiest, fastest method to recover. I also had an incident at another store where the woman who was there asked me to read a crystal that she had, and then anytime you're reading an object on purpose and you have to drop your shields, you don't know for sure what's going to happen. It was a Tibetan crystal. She had bought a bunch of them, and I had her put it in my hand, and I opened myself up, and I started seeing these horrific things going on. There was like men being forced to harvest these crystals at gunpoint with the Chinese army, and I just burst into tears. So it's not that you ever get to the point where you're not going to feel things. It's just that you arrive at a point where you can let yourself feel stuff and then let it go instead of keeping it and harboring it in. And probably the most difficult time I've had was right after 9/11. I woke up knowing something had happened. I could see it and I could feel it, and everyone in the country was so incredibly upset about what was going on. I was constantly being bombarded by that. That's one of the reasons why I'm wearing my silk scarf to show you. I have several silk scarves, and silk is one of the things that you can use to help manage your energy. That one was bad enough that I actually wrapped my head in silk. Silk can block external energy from coming in, but allows you to control your energy going out, so you have a better measure of control over what's going on in yourself and around you by using silk. One of the reasons why silk robes are popular is because of that. It's one of those things. It's one of just the nature of silk. And so I wear silk a lot, not because I'm expecting to be bombarded, but because I never know when I might be. So always be prepared. And nowadays it's really easy to come by silk at Goodwill. Mostly everything I have that's silk I've gotten that way. Not the scarf. I caught this at a flea market down in Santa Cruz. But yeah, I'm always keeping my eye out for something like that. Something that I can wear that I like. The colors aren't as important as the fabric, but I like the colors as well. So, that's one of the things that you can do. So for myself, usually first thing in the morning before I get out of bed, I'm making sure that my personal shields are in place, and that's something that you should be practicing. Whether you are an empath or not, shielding is something we should all be practicing, because even if you're not that level of sensitive, that doesn't mean you're not going to be affected by energies that are wandering around. So everyone has a different way of visualizing their personal shield, and for me, I see it as sort of like an egg shape around my body, below my feet, over my head, and the surface is mostly clear, except it has sort of iridescent colors, kind of like oil on water. You get that effect that sort of wander around through my shield. And I have it programmed, because you can program your shield for whatever you want. I have it programmed so that I can accept positive energy that's coming in and then reflect negative energy back to where it's coming from, so that I'm not absorbing everybody. Even with that, though, every so often stuff happens. I had, a month or so ago, an annoying moment in Weimar when I was shopping, and every time I looked down an aisle, I could see people had robbed that aisle and that they were stealing things. That's not quite empathy, but it was very annoying anyway, and I was like, I can't do anything about this. This already happened. Go away, leave me alone. It's like, and I went, like that, just like, go. And my husband said, what was that? I'm like, oh, yeah, this is what happened. So, responding to what's going on is your best defense. The thing about being prepared is that when you get very prepared and then you forget that's when you find out how much your actual preparations are working. That's what happened to me when I went out shopping and I didn't wear my bracelets that I have charged up for either bringing in positive energy, reflecting negative energy, keeping my energy field kind of intact so that it's me and not other people, and having their thoughts and feelings and whatnot. And I didn't have them on. And when I got back here and did that video where I started crying at the end, the energy that I had collected from being in the store with a lot of people, even though I wasn't there for a long period of time, just kind of burst in on me. So when you get those events, there's only a few things you can do. You have to let yourself cry, and that's important. If it's that kind of a feeling, you let it come out. You have to give it an exit. Taking a cleansing bath is extremely helpful. You can I usually, every time I take a bath, I use Epsom salts, and I have a stone, an aquamarine, that I'm using to help me connect better with the water, and I cast the evoking water pentagram with the aquamarine and charge up my bath. And then I let it just absorb not just the dirt and the fatigue or muscle aches or whatever, but also the energetic stuff, to let it drain out of my body. And then I banish the water element and pull the plug and visualize all that stuff draining down into the earth that way. So that is a good method to help with that. Another thing is to bring certain stones with you, or to be able to have access to them when you need them. This is a smaller piece of selenite. We have a lot of selenite. We've shown it to you before. And I have an even shorter piece than this that's in my purse. So if I need to get a cleansing, an energetic cleansing right away, I can just grab a hold of a piece of selenite and kind of do that sort of thing and absorb that light with the sparkles in it that I see when I hold a piece of selenite. Sort of brings my vibrational rate up, and things that don't match it sort of fall off. So that's important. And then, like when I was in the park and I picked up that wand that someone had made that bit me, the emergency one of putting your hands and your feet in running water works to drain energy that's not yours immediately out. So if you've gone out and you come back and you're feeling like completely off, and you're thinking things that aren't usually yours, you know this is not how you usually feel about stuff, and the stuff is chattering in your head, and you feel you might have picked up something from somebody else, an attachment, a spirit, or whatever, you can actually do that just in a bathtub. You can either put a board across the tub and sit on the board and put the water on and put your hands and feet in the running water, or you can stand up to do the same thing. It's just easier on your back if you're not standing up, if you're like me. Back doesn't like that. And if there is any kind of external influence, it'll just ground out immediately. And I use that same technique in my office in between clients after I've been working on somebody and I'm touching them and everything else. Then I go to wash my hands. I don't just wash my hands, but I also focus on that water, draining any energy of theirs out. And I've actually set up my office in such a way that it also does that automatically, so that I'm since I work on people who are in extreme levels of pain on a regular basis, because that's what I do for a living, I had to come up with a method so that I'm not draining myself constantly, because if you're using just your own energy when doing any kind of healing work, then at the end of the day, you're drained. And I didn't want to be taking anything back from them. I don't want to do the kind of healing where I absorb someone else's ills and then I, heal myself. I figure it's much easier not to do that, take that step out altogether and just take their ills and put them down into the ground. So what I've done in my office is I've put grounding cords, visualizing them in the astral and mental plane, on the bottom legs, on all four legs of my massage table. So I have the energy going down. And then I have a smoky quartz crystal in the corner that will pull any negative energy that doesn't get grounded immediately and absorb it and then ground it itself, so it doesn't keep it, so it doesn't have to be cleansed all the time. It's just sort of an automatic conduit to just pull and drain and pull and drain. And I do the same thing with my chair legs. Although in the case of doing working on a client, I actually have the energy coming from the earth up into my chair. So I have a circular energetic conduit going on where the energy comes up into me from the earth. I let it come out of me through my hands and into my client, and then anything that it encounters and they are willing to let go of, it drains down through the legs back down into the earth. So it's constantly flowing and getting renewed and so forth, which helps quite a bit. So that's one of the reasons why I shared the sacred tree meditational practice that we did right in the beginning. I consider that probably one of the most important meditational practices I've ever come across, because it does that for you. It helps you to ground yourself and to cleanse your own aura and get that stuff back into the planet so that the earth can clean it and absorb it and change it and bring it back in a different form. And then it raises your own vibrational rate and gently opens up your own chakra centers and then connects you to the spirit with the universal life force. It's an excellent method for cleansing outside of a bath. And so as you practice that, the more you practice that, the easier it becomes to sort of do it on the fly when you need to. And gifts change. I thought I'd let you know what I'm wearing just so that you have some ideas. Right now I'm using these because they're easier to put on. And this is a black tourmaline. Black tourmaline is really good at rejecting negative energy. It doesn't absorb the negative energy. It kind of like repels negative energy. So I like using that so that when I'm going into a place with a lot of people, I don't have to worry about it. And then I found this blue chalcedony or chalcedony. I'm never sure how you pronounce that. And I don't know about this one as well. I've looked it up a couple times, but I don't remember what it's good for except I like it. So I put that on there. And then this is a lapis. So these are mostly for the positive kind of stuff, pulling in or blocking negative stuff. And then on this wrist I've got labradorite, which is a very good reflecting stone, and I've used labradorite when I travel as a way to keep random ghosts out of my hotel room and also to ground out and get rid of other people's experiences there. I can tell you as an empath, going to a hotel or a motel is like a charged notion because you're laying on a bed that hundreds or thousands of people have laid on before you. And in the beginning I would be seeing fights going on or hearing fights when I was asleep, and just all sorts of strange energy and whatnot, and every so often a ghost would come by as well. So the labradorite is one that I use for like reflecting things, and it's similar, like this kind of a stone, the way it shines. I know you can't see it as well there, but I'm sure you can get a hold of a piece of labradorite and look at its sheen. Is the kind of sheen or color sort of stuff that I put in my personal shield, so it fits really well. And then this is some Amazonite, again, not one I'm as familiar with, but I really like it, so I put that on too. And it's green and it matches, right? Why not? And then this is my medicine pouch. I made my own medicine pouch years ago. And then I came across this Tibetan prayer box. So I turned this into my medicine pouch. So I opened up the back and I put all my stones that I have used over the years that I work with inside. And so when I put that on, it's another one of those automatic kind of things. It just sorts of puts that out there. And you can use decorations, jewelries, that kind of stuff for dual purposes. They don't have to be just a decoration. And if you charge them up a certain way and give them a certain job, then that's what they'll do. And then this, where does she go? Well, she's hiding because the shirt is tall. There we go. And this is a Sarasvati, who's a Hindu goddess of purity, creativity, music, knowledge, that kind of thing. And I can wear her in public, and people, both of these things actually in public, and people who are in the know might recognize what they are and know a little bit about me that way. But people who aren't just see them as pretty and they like them, and I'll get lots of compliments for them. So that's another way of doing that. So you think about what you're wearing, how you're wearing it, why you're wearing it, and then do the other work for yourself in order to keep your heart safe as much as you can. But know that nothing will protect you 100%, because if that was the case, you'd be just blocked off completely from the entire universe. And then you'd be like an isolated little blip running around, not interacting with anything that's out there. And it can work in an emergency, don't get me wrong. If you are really in a serious way, blocking yourself off completely from all energies can be a good short-term solution, like imagining that you're in a steel ball or something and just kind of like, and you can experiment with it, which is interesting. You can like be talking to a friend at lunch and visualize that and notice how their energy changes when they suddenly don't feel like you're listening, even if it looks as if you're listening, because you're just sitting right there in front of them, but they'll sense that on an energetic level. So trying to think of what else I can give you for this. Being open. Okay, I know what. So the thing that helps me out a lot, because a lot of things that people think are kind of cruel and mean, and a lot of people aren't very nice when it comes to their energy, because people aren't paying attention to themselves and they're not taking out their own psychic garbage, and then we pick it up. I've had instances where an actual haunting has taken place because of someone's thought forms and psychic garbage that they've thrown out into a space that other people can feel. So knowing this helps you understand that maybe other humans, most of them aren't your best source for validation, to feel like you belong, because feeling like you belong in this world and in this life is very important. Without that, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, you don't know how to feel. And so for me, being able to make that strong connection to other forms of consciousness, like when the tree reached out to me and embraced me in comfort, and I knew that it knew how I felt and that it accepted me the way I was. That was the beginning of an important step in my development, because that way I don't have to depend upon what people say and what people think for my sense of purpose or belonging, that the universe appreciates me just the way I am, and that gives me the permission to transform myself and to change and to become more of who I am. And that's what you have to do. I mean, if you're going to develop, if you're going to make use of the life that you have, becoming your truest self is the goal, in my opinion. And the way of doing that is to get to know who you are. And if all of you know about who you are is just the reflections through other people, and they're not sane, for want of a better term, to start with, then any picture you get of yourself is going to be distorted because they're distorted to start with. So that's like trying to undo those kinds of things, the hurt and the pain that it causes when someone you thought was a friend betrays you, or says something to you and treats you in such a way that you know that's not something you would ever do, and how could they not know that? How could they believe that of you? That is usually when they are projecting onto you. That doesn't mean that you're not personally responsible for your own actions, your own thoughts, and your own feelings, but it means that you're not personally responsible for theirs. They are responsible for their own. And people will only learn as much as they're willing or able to learn. We're all here learning different things. We're all at different levels of understanding and experience. So we're not better than or worse than anyone else from that point of view. So the only person that you need to be true to is that you, yourself. And the way I see it, I look at, say, I'm going to be stuck with me for all eternity, and do I like who I am? And that's what I use as a way to decide what to do and how to act and where to go with it. So I hope that this has been at least somewhat helpful. Being an empath is definitely not a straightforward kind of thing. It's just not. It's kind of like a big, huge ball of messy stuff. But you can learn how to distance yourself from the most of the intensity of the feelings and get to a point of understanding and comprehending them, and then learn to let go of other people's emotions and feelings and not take them on as your own and feel like it's your job to fix them, because that's not our job to fix them if they aren't doing things right. You can only help as much as you can. So stay safe out there. Wear silk if you have it. Take care of yourself. Since we're more social distancing right now, you have the opportunity to do a little bit of that kind of stuff if you feel up to it. And don't judge yourself if you're not doing everything you think you should, because that's not a good idea either. So this has been Siofra's Magic Alcove, and I'm Siofra Bradigan. Blessed be.